Hello and welcome to this video on resilience. We're going to answer 4 questions in the next couple of minutes about resilience, what it is, why it's useful, can it be developed, and what do Indigo know about resilience in the work we do. So let's start with what it is. The dictionary talk about it as a capacity to recover quickly from difficulty, a toughness even. Equally, they talk about it being a bounce back ability, an elasticity in how we can behave and respond. Now, if you have it in your mind that resilience is a way of smiling on through difficulty and emotional challenges, I'm afraid that's not what it is. It requires that toughness for sure. But resilience is really about the courage of our adaptability to recognise when we're being challenged and understand how we can learn from those experiences. So why is it useful is directly linked to that. When we're under threat, as we've spoken of in the other videos, we regularly narrow down our risk. And in business, that can mean we lose a competitive opportunity to be advantageous. So if we want to build resilience, it's useful for well-being because we're calming that emotional brain and thinking about how we can choose our best self in those moments. It's also useful for problem solving because it allows us to lean in to learning and lean out of being right. What's not to like? So, can we develop it? Yes, we can develop it because it isn't a characteristic that we either do or don't have. This is something we can learn. To learn it, we have to extend our comfort zone. We have to lean in to learning, as I mentioned earlier, and that means taking a risk personally. But when we do, we can develop it by doing the reps. So what do Indigo know about this? Well, it's a subject I've always been passionate about, so much so that 8 years I chose it as my master's thesis subject. I went back to the organisation I was employed in back in the 2008 recession, where I'd led a redundancy programme, a number of them in fact, over a period of 12 months. An emotional and very challenging situation. So I went back and I interviewed 8 senior managers who I'd worked with during that time, and we interviewed them about how they experienced resilience in a positive way and how they experienced resilience when they didn't feel it was there or attainable. Having it or not having it, how did that feel? In the interviews, without any exception, all the interviewees spoke of having resilience in the first person. I, me, we. When they spoke about not having resilience, without exception, they spoke of them and they. Very interesting. We always say that culture is the unwritten rule, the taken for granted norm. And in this situation, even the language had changed so that the idea of not being resilient was pushed away as something that couldn't be owned or be curious about. Consequently, when these findings came back from the interviews, the company decided what they really needed to do was to start talking about resilience and how to build it from induction, through to having mentors and then rewarding it during performance reviews. They were shocked at how unconscious that culture had become. So resilience is a very personal thing and it needs some time taking to understand it. But when you do, it can release enormous potential. And we'd be happy to work with you to measure it and to understand how it can best promote and advance your people, your business, and most importantly, your business's well-being. Thank you.